So I shared this video of Spike's terrible lead walking a little bit earlier in the week, and I am sharing it again now because there is another benefit to a dog who will lunge and pull on the lead like this. So long as they're wearing equipment that's not going to hurt them and not going to hurt you, there is another benefit to a dog who will behave like this on the lead. And that benefit is I know how Spike's feeling in that moment. It's very clear to me how Spike is feeling about that bird. If I took the lead off, he would chase it 100%. There's no doubt in my mind. However, if I had worked very hard to train him to always be sensible on his lead, I would have no idea how he was going to be if I unclipped the lead. And I'm thinking about this because on Easter Sunday, I took Wren, my older cocker, out for a walk, and we went down a fairly busy path. It's quite narrow in points, and on our route we met a young Vizsla with his family. He was wearing a lot of equipment. He had a harness on, he had a collar on, he had a prong collar on. He was wearing a lot of equipment. He was off lead when we met him, and when he spotted Wren, he charged at her and he was barking at her. And I don't think he was trying to frighten her. I think he was just a bit socially overwhelmed and he didn't really know what to do. And then told him to back off. She's not tolerant with young dogs that make clumsy approaches. So she told him he needed to back away from her. And then he couldn't. He was just really over aroused. He couldn't back away from her. I ended up having to hold Wren in my arms and fend the dog off with my body, by turning my body so that he couldn't get to her until his family came and collected him. And all it was he was just over aroused. He doesn't have the skills to handle that situation, and he was off lead a bit, a little bit like Spike would have been if I'd unclipped his lead near that bird. He was off lead in a situation that he didn't have the skills to handle. So anyway, we just carried on with our walk. Thankfully for me, somebody came along just at the same time with a beautiful Irish setter who was much more gentle, and Wren and I walked along with that dog a little bit. So it meant that she had a pleasant experience with a big red coloured dog. Anyway, on the way home, we met the people with Vizsla again, and this time he was on the lead. And this time he didn't even look at Wren, didn't even glance in her direction. And he just walked by completely calmly. And I know that for a lot of people you'd be thinking, well, that's great. He walked really nicely on the lead and he wasn't unruly. But here's the thing. As we passed them, I thought, oh goodness, those poor people. How are they ever going to tell when he's ready to be off lead? They're going to have to guess every time because they will not be able to tell because of that stark difference. If he's on the lead, he's ignoring everything around him. But if he's off the lead, he's not. And he didn't have a good enough recall to call him away. And part of the issue is they are going to struggle to train that dog because he will hide how he feels. Because for him, the leash has come to mean pain. If you are unruly on the leash, then it is going to hurt you because a prong collar absolutely will hurt him if he is unruly on the leash. And so that's why he was behaving himself. However, when loose, his behaviour was terrible. And the thing is, what often happens with people like that is they get a lot of really strong social disapproval. When you walk, where I live is very, very busy with dogs, and what often happens is with the dogs where they don't have a very good recall and they are prone to running up to other dogs is the people who are walking those dogs get a lot of very strong negative feedback from other people who don't want their dog bothered. Because most of the dogs are pretty calm about meeting other dogs because they meet them all the time. So what ends up is these people end up with like lots of really strong social disapproval. That's often what encourages the the creation of on-lead behaviour that's markedly different from off-lead behaviour, and it's something to really watch out for with your leash training. I want to know with my dogs, I 100% want to know how they're feeling. Now, in Spike's case, I can let him chase crows across the playing field. That's not really going to harm anybody. But I previously had a dog who was dangerous towards other dogs. He was a real risk towards other dogs. And with that dog as well, I wanted to know, how are you feeling in this moment? So if he barked and lunged towards another dog that was a good distance away, that was really helpful for me, because the last thing I wanted him to do was to be quiet until the dog got too close and then for him to bite the dog. Or push the dog over. Even if he was muzzled, he was very large, so he could have easily pushed dogs over and hurt them that way. So I just didn't want dogs coming close to us, and I wanted to know how he was feeling. And because I knew how he was feeling at every stage, he eventually became a dog who could run loose in places where there were other dogs. He was fine to be approached by off-lead dogs. He was by far the most sociable dog with other dogs that I have lived with. He was great with them. But the only reason that we were able, one of the things that contributed to us getting there was the fact that I at no point taught him to hide his feelings when he was attached to me, because that's the last thing in the world that I want to do. Having said that, I know it is difficult if you have a dog who cannot control themselves on the lead. So, there is still time, just until the end of this month, if you want to work on lead walking skills. I have got a workshop with Fenzi Dog Sports Academy that is still available to buy until the end of the month. You can buy it, watch the recording of the feedback video that I made, and it will help you manage these sorts of situations where your dog is a bit wild better. And that's what you really want to do, is managing better. Don't ever look for perfection in dog training, because you won't ever get perfection, and what you will get is a whole lot of frustration if that's what you search for. So search for improvement and not perfection. Okay, I'll pop the link somewhere around the video. Sometimes they're below, sometimes they're next to. Anyway, look around for the link if it sounds interesting to you, and you can still get access to that workshop. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.